Have you had that experience where you started changing, but no one around you has noticed it yet? You're still the same person on paper, same life, same family, same job, but internally, something has shifted. Old habits feel heavy, and even your own decisions start confusing you. Something feels different. Conversations that you used to have all of a sudden feel off. You're still the same person on paper. I'm talking same job, same friends, same life, but just internally, something feels different. Conversations that you used to have all of a sudden feel off. Old habits feel heavy, and even your own decisions start confusing you. I had this moment recently where I realized something kind of wild. I think I quietly broke up with the old version of myself. And no one told me that would be one of the loneliest things that I think I've ever done. And the weirdest part is I didn't even realize it was happening until much later. There were actually three signs that my life was shifting before anything on the outside changed. One of them showed up in how my relationships start feeling different, and the other showed up in the ways that I start questioning my own decision making. So if you ever felt like your life looks fine on paper, but inside something is definitely shifting, stay with me. Because once I understood what was actually happening, it completely changed the way I think about growth. So over the weekend, I was watching Love is Blind season 10 reunion. Don't judge me, y'all. And there was this moment with one of the couples, Devante and Brittany, and it just like hit different. So let me explain. Okay, without giving too much away, there's this scene where one of them has clearly moved on already, Devante, and he says, "We broke up already." And Brittany is like, "No, you never said that." And he goes, "I thought I said that. Oh, I didn't say it out loud." And I'm just like, one, sir, you're trash. But two, how many times do we internally break up with somebody? How many times do energetically we break up with somebody before we actually say that? Just not maybe in relationships, but we do this with ourselves. And that's where something Toni Morrison wrote about like really clicked for me. So she talked about the danger of internalizing the gaze, which means we shape the way that we see ourselves based on how we think other people see us. So, not who you actually are, but who you believe will be accepted. And suddenly, this whole thing made sense. We break up with an old version of who we are internally before we ever say it out loud. Before we change the job, before we set the boundary, before we stop showing up to things that drain us. The breakup happens internally first. And that's the part that no one sees. Okay, so let me share when this happened for me. There was a season before me and Bernard, before like any of this, where I just started questioning everything. Not like in a crisis type of way, just in a way where my eyes were opening and like I can't close them again. I was learning new ideas. I was reading books I'd never even picked up before. And I was really getting curious about new ways of living, thinking, and just being. And at first, this felt very exciting like, ooh, I'm growing. This is very beautiful. But then the gaps started to show. I remember very clearly I was dating someone at the time and I was trying to show him and expose him to these new ideas and new thoughts and new ways of showing up that I was discovering. I'm talking genuinely excited, y'all. And his response was, "I don't want to change. You do. I'm good." And that is honestly when it hit me that this growth thing might be a solo journey. Before you change your bio, before you make any major adjustments, you've already disconnected. There's a moment where you start breaking up with yourself internally before the rest of the world realizes it. And it's not because people don't love you, it's because the version of you that begins to emerge doesn't fit the spaces that the old version of you built. And honestly, this is where a lot of people start to think something is wrong with them. Why does my life look completely the same on paper and feel absolutely different on the inside? Some of us were expanding, some of us were rebuilding, and some of us were just trying to get our footing again. So I actually made a quick little tool called the Clarity Quiz that helps you figure out what season you're in right now. Because once you can understand your season, the confusion starts to make a little bit more sense. If you're curious, I linked it below, but let's get back to the story. So here's where it gets really interesting. And just wait, stick with me. But this changed how I understand growth. So there's a psychologist named Carl Jung who talks about the persona and our shadow side. That is the version of ourselves that we show to the world. That's the put together person. That's the I'm fine. That's the one who posts the right quotes and things on Instagram or TikTok. That's the one who has all the right words to say in the group chats and in the small intimate spaces. That person. And then there's the shadow side. And the shadow side is really just the parts we like push down, the parts we suppress. We feel like it's too messy. We feel like they're too much. We feel like it's too shameful sometimes to just show everybody. And I'm going to say the quiet part out loud. Growth is not just about discovering new parts of yourself. It's also admitting the parts of yourself that you tried to bury, like wanting recognition. That's shadow. Craving rest, but feeling lazy for it. Baby, that's shadow. And having ambition that feels like too much. Too much for a woman, too much for someone your age, too much for a Christian. Just, it's too much. That's shadow. And even regret. Regret about decisions you may have made, regret about relationships you stayed in way too long, or regret about missed opportunities that you had because you were playing small. Guys, that is all shadow. And until you choose to sit with it, not fix it, sit with it, you're always going to feel like two different beings competing in the same body. I want to talk about something that I don't always share. A few years ago, I had two brick and mortar businesses. And when I tell you I was in it, I was in it. We were successful and it was thriving. It was truly like a dream. I had envisioned it, I had built it, I had poured everything I had into it. And like with my whole chest, I believed in it, 10 toes down. And then things started to fall apart. There was a partnership dispute. Things got very messy and I had to close it. But here's what really broke me, y'all. It wasn't about losing the business. It was about losing the trust that I had for myself. Because I would sit there and replay the situations over in my head and just ask myself, how did I let this happen? How did I not see the red flags? What's wrong with my judgment? And I carried that for a long time. This low hum of, you can't be trusted with your own life. You can't be trusted to make good decisions for yourself. And that's when I really like started to realize that integration isn't just about the exciting parts of growth. It's not the new book, it's not the new mindset, it's not like hashtag glow up, right? It's about making peace with the painful parts too. The failures, the betrayals, the version of you that got it wrong. Because those parts, they're not separate from you. They are you. Until you stop running from them, this new version of you can't fully arrive. Something else I learned in that season too is growth doesn't just change you, it changes your relationships too. Sometimes the people around you grow with you, and sometimes they're still relating to an old version of who you were. So, Bernard and I talk a lot about this. And this is why I created something called the Aligned Love Check In. It's a simple weekly conversation with just a few questions to help you both stay grounded as you're both evolving. Because growth does not need to pull you apart if you're both willing to talk about it. If you're in a relationship and this feels like it might be helpful for you, I linked it below in the description. But for now, let's keep going. So, how do you come back from that? Michelle Obama talks about this idea of becoming instead of arriving. And I really think that's the whole thing. Self-trust comes back when you stop pretending you have it all figured out. But growth isn't about becoming perfect. It's about becoming honest. We keep waiting to feel ready, to feel healed, to feel like this new version of us that we've been working on is complete. When you accept the lessons, even the ones that come through pain, allow yourself to evolve without needing everyone else's permission. Here is what I wish someone would have said earlier to me. You can still trust yourself and be a work in progress. Those two things can live beautifully in the same body. I think God designed it that way, honestly. Because if we had to wait till we were finished to take a step forward, none of us would ever move forward. That's grace. That's the whole thing. So if you're in a place right now where your inner life is changing faster than your outer life, I want you to hear me. You are not lost, you are not broken, and you are not behind. You were integrating. And integration is messy, not faster, not louder, not more impressive, just going deeper with you. But, friend, you were learning how to trust yourself again. And that might be one of the most beautiful and important lessons on growth that there is, because it means admitting the parts of yourself that you may have spent years trying to hide. If this conversation resonated with you, I wrote a deeper reflection on my Substack and I called it, I Think I Broke Up With Me. It goes a little bit deeper into this like integration process and some stuff that I couldn't fully unpack in this video. I also created a reflection tool to help you explore and discover your own persona versus shadow side. It's simple, it's gentle, and it honestly might surprise you. So I linked both of those in my description notes. Okay, question. Have you ever felt like you were quietly outgrowing a version of yourself? And if so, what did that look like for you? And I promise you, you're not the only one. I would love to know. Drop it, leave it in the comments. Trust me, I read every single one and I do respond. I'm building this with you. And if you're new around here, like, this is kind of what we do. We talk about building a life that is rooted in clarity instead of chaos. If this conversation about outgrowing old versions of yourself resonated, there's another video on this YouTube channel that pairs perfectly with it. It's called What in the Delusional Audacity? Because the next challenge becomes, once you start integrating who you really are, how do we live that way out loud?